Welcome back to... If you hate the new setup, I can always change it back. But you know what I say, guys? Let it all work out. Arsenal fans, these are the good times. 2 games, 2 wins, top of the league. Eberechi Eze signed, sealed and delivered. Piero Hincapié looking like he's on his way to replace Kivior. Sales starting, Gyökeres's goals, Daumann's debut, and even some good updates on what feel like the inevitable annual injuries to our best players. Well, we can't have everything, can we? At the start of every season, I fundamentally believe you must have hope as a football fan. Grimsby or Gillingham, Villa or Villarreal, wherever you are, even if that hope is unfounded or delusional, I think you lose some of the fun of watching if you don't have at least a part of you thinking, yeah, this is our year. And I've felt that before, that hope with Arsenal. But this year, it's gone up a level. This isn't just blind hope. I'm feeling for the first time in a long time that we are all in as a club, truly prepared, truly aligned, and ready for the season to come. In May of last year, Mikel Arteta spoke about goosebumps at the prospect of what was to come this summer, and in quieter moments, that's been mocked. But I think I'm finally beginning to understand what he means. I don't recognise my club, and I mean that in the best way. So let's talk about that. But while you're here, give us a quick follow on socials and subscribe, will you? Eberechi Eze has signed for Arsenal. Tell me where you were down below when you got the bomber. I was in Tortilla at Liverpool Street Station. Not sponsored. Definitely not sponsored, actually. £10 for a burrito. You joking? I don't think I've been this excited for a signing since probably Declan Rice. But even then, that felt like it dragged on for ages. So when that news hit, it was more of a relief. Eze came out of the despair of losing Havertz, the fear he might be off to them lot, and the sense that this window was beginning to drift. And it hit different. Kai Havertz, that's your best ever assist, mate. In every way, from every angle, this deal moves me. The timing for Arsenal in our project, the timing in the window to boost us, the speed of the deal, the tactical fit, the cultural fit, his story in football, his story with Arsenal, the place he is in his career, it all feels so right. He called Mikel begging not to go to Spurs. Cheers for the guide price, Daniel. In the interview with Righty, one of the greatest bits of content Arsenal have put out in recent memory for me, you just feel what Arsenal means to him. He talks about playing like he was on trial every time he faced us. You see how he takes in the message from Henry. You hear the story of his family praying to return to the club. And somehow on that theme, it all feels predestined, predetermined. To him, Arsenal means more. It means what it means to us, me and you. And that's why I'm so sure it's going to work. I even like the financials. Not because I feel we've got the most efficient deal. He had 2 years left and maybe we could have got that number down. I like it because we just went, we're paying. We've got an injury. You've got a player we want. We're paying. And how often have careful, conservative, keep your powder dry Arsenal done that in recent years, only to miss out by 2 or 3 points or a toe? And that shift in approach is echoing through the club. Something feels different. Not the usual suspects on whose hamstrings our entire season rests. There's new names and faces on and off the field, ready to take the burden. But before we go there, let's talk Eze the player, because I don't think some people are quite appreciating, footballistically, to steal Arsene's phrase, what we've added with Eze. This isn't just a good number 10 or a great player. This is everything Arsenal struggle with. Everything Arsenal aren't. To Arsenal, Eze is water in the desert. Arsenal are shot shy as a team. We ranked 6th for shots on target and 5th for shots overall in the Premier League last year, despite coming 2nd. And if you account for the fact we are basically the field tilt world champions behind City, getting a huge amount of final third touches, to be only 2 shots on target last year above Crystal Palace doesn't feel right. Arsenal had 1 player in the top 30 Premier League players ranked by shots per 90 in the Premier League last season, Saka. For comparison, Man City had 5. But we don't need spreadsheets to know that, right? Every Arsenal fan has had the experience of sitting there watching us in the final third thinking, shoot! Someone shoot! And I think we should park the systemic creativity issues that precipitate this, because there is a individual decision-making, technical separation, and desire aspect to shot-taking that can only really be fixed individually. Eze is a high-volume shooter. He ranked 6th in the Premier League for total volume of shots last year, ahead of some bloke called Alexander Isak, and just behind some bloke called Erling Haaland. When you consider the team he's in had the 3rd lowest amount of touches in the final third in the league, you can see this is someone who wants to have a go and releases quickly. He ranked 23rd in the league for shots on target, so maybe there's an element of rein it in, pal. But Arsenal are not lacking someone who tries things in the final third, are they? Alongside the Madueke and Gyökeres deals, it's a good sign that Arsenal recognise the problem and are trying to find the solution. Another aspect here is shot distance. Arsenal's average shot distance in the Premier League last year was 15.1 yards, second only to Brentford as the lowest in the Premier League. I don't think Mikel Arteta is intending to turn Arsenal into some pot shot, shoot from distance team. His whole game model in the last few years has erred on the side of lower volume but high quality chances. But when the game calls for it, Arsenal are crying out for someone who'll take shots from higher risk locations. Because as I always say, it's not just the shot. It's the stress, psychologically and physically, of a shot ricocheting or the ball bouncing in the box or the keeper parrying out wide. It's what it does for the crowd. If you only shoot when you're in the 6-yard box from the highest XG position, the tempo and energy we've seen can die. Eze will, in theory, address that balance off the second phases of corners, off counterattacks, and in settled final third play. I mean, what do we see against us? Is this exact goal. Who scores that goal for us before him? Who even tries that? Eze is 23rd highest out of 574 players in the entire Premier League for average shot distance, according to FBref. Already a good counterbalance, but remove defensive midfielders and fullbacks taking up the top spots with low sample sizes and pot shots. He comes out behind only Enciso, Bruno, El Khanous and McNeil for highest average shot distance for forwards and attacking midfielders. And crucially, miles ahead of any Arsenal player. I will put a little caveat in here and say I think Eze will probably be encouraged to pull back on this a touch, but only 4 Premier League players have scored 5+ goals from outside the box across all competitions since the start of last season. That's Bruno, Kovacic, Cunha, and Eze. But beyond shots, he had something massive for us off the back of last week's video, and that's better decision-making in transition. And I know, as the people watching me in the office right now are saying, I am a nerd. But this is one of the most exciting parts for me as we look to develop this phase of our play as a team. Ball comes to him wide against Ipswich, receive, out his feet, bang. Perfectly weighted pass through to Mateta to score. Think about the side he is. Think about the translation with a lot of these, where obviously he's been playing with Mateta. Gyökeres is going to have a field day. Probably more so than with those sort of high passes and short flicks and reverse passes that suit, say, a Saka or Ødegaard. Eze is a much better stylistic match for Gyökeres than Martinelli or Rice, and ditto Nketiah, by the way, who we'll come to. It's that early, instinctive, get-it-forward thought, and when he has runners around him, he can pick them out with ease. That assist from Calafiori for the Leeds goal, Eze's got that on lock. Ball comes to him in the midfield against West Ham, rolls across his body, straight through again to Mateta, perfect weight into the space. Mateta finishes off. He can carry as well, as we've all seen, and he carries very well. But he doesn't always need to or choose to. He just makes the right decisions. He has the space here, and some players would want to show everyone their heels and enjoy that carry, the crowd getting up. Not Eze. He just makes the right call. Picks it up left half space here off a regain, drills it again early into Mateta through the lines. Same again. Mateta scores. Later on in the game, he picks it up touchline, but the pass isn't on. So here he does carry, dragging all those defenders into the centre with his movement. Look at that gravity he's created before a perfectly timed release to Munoz, who finishes off in acres of space. Again, just correct decisions. Obviously, I'm showing you where it's working and it ends up in a goal. I'm not showing you all the times where it doesn't. But this is a player who creates threat when he moves through the pitch. He's the wall pass, he's the early pass, he's the person people look to when the ball turns over. He's the guy that teammates give the ball to because they know they're getting the ball back. For our transition game, and specifically our new number 9, this is huge. And as if that wasn't enough balm for our bruises, that's just not phrase, is it? Eze also helps us against low blocks and compacted defences, a thorn in Arsenal's side in recent years. Arsenal's issues accessing the centre have been well explored on this channel. Some of it by design, I'm always keen to stress, aimed at not losing the ball by progressing wide. But some of it, I think, based on the fact we have very few players, other than probably Ethan Nwaneri, who trust to take it in there on the half turn, back to goal, and do something with it. Until now. One of the joys of watching Eze is seeing him escape from seemingly crazy situations and receiving the ball inside in tight areas. The trust that Palace had in him, some of the situations he received it in, he's just techie. For a maverick type, a player who loves the unexpected, accessing those central areas is going to be key to see his full effect, and then it's about the efficiency. It's not just that he can take it in those spaces, it's how quickly he gets his actions off to make it worth it. Slaloming through tiny spaces and holding onto it with an incredible, sorry for the nerd phrase, touch economy, but it's the perfect way of summing him up. 1, 2, bang, out of his feet. This is a team who struggled to create chances consistently last year. 6th for overall non-penalty XG, as we mentioned. And Eze just changed our world in so many regards. Take a look at this. This is shots and key passes per 100 touches for Premier League attacking midfielders and wingers. And the key passes bit is massive here for me. Some of the best creators in the league reputationally, he's right by them. Again, despite playing for a mid-table team with less touches. Cunha, Salah, Palmer, he's in those conversations and in some cases ahead of them. Eze played more key passes per 90 last year than Trent, Cunha, Doku, Gordon, Bernardo, Gakpo, and many others. What can this guy do creatively for Field Tilt FC? Add on to that, I think he just became our free kick taker. Pick your analogy. This is water in the desert. In terms of the positional fit, I don't know. But this is where we begin to come to some other aspects of this deal that I think are as exciting. And we start to pinpoint why I'm so excited about Arsenal right now. Mikel was asked about Eze in his post-Leeds presser and had this to say. I think he has the capacity to create these magic moments. He can do it from different positions, different situations. He's got that flair. He's got that charisma as well about him that is very contagious. And let's use it in the right way. He can play different positions. We know he can play as an attacking midfielder, right or left. He doesn't care. He plays shifted off the left as well. He's very comfortable there. We'll gather information again the moment he's on that pitch and starts to link and feel a connection with people. I'm sure we'll find the right place for him. I think sometimes we, and by we I mean me, are guilty of firstly trying to pre-fit players, probably subconsciously, into the system we already have. Well, he doesn't make sense as Arsenal's left winger, not allowing the talent to guide us on what the system should be, but also not leaving enough space for just natural chemistry, stuff that happens beyond the tactics board and off the page. Here's what I think could work on paper. Calafiori, to be honest, but definitely Nketiah wide makes sense to platform Eze inside. They can allow him to drift off the left or interchange by becoming a bit more of a runner and crosser on the outside, while Eze stays in what I feel are his best zones when he likes, but also can be a touchline winger at points in the game. Maybe in this iteration, Declan Rice has a bit more freedom to drift to the right, where I think his goal scoring and passing improves. Maybe Odegaard feels freer positionally to drop out and link. Maybe the gravity Eze provides helps Saka to get some more space. This makes sense to me, anyway. And I've seen a lot of great analysis this week from people I massively respect, who've all put forward great cases for where Eze should be and what he should do. And it all makes sense. But the fact is, with a player like Eze, I don't know. With a talent like this, for me, you just play them. And to coin a phrase, let it all work out. We can start him there, but if he builds up a chemistry with Zubimendi, who finds him more centrally, and we have to shift it to something more like a traditional 10, great. If we find he's actually killing it as closer to a touchline winger at times because he's able to combine a bit more and can still be that reliable outball without it limiting him, let's do that. I think he will be something like a pseudo 10 floating in off the left. But do I want to nail my colours to that mast? No. Because that's not allowing for Eze's best quality. Invention. Surprise. In my season preview, I said I don't want to be bored this year. I need to see invention. And Eze puts paid to that concern right away, wherever he plays, with a big smile on his face. And at this point, that's what I care about beyond the position. He'll relish the part. You can see it. The prestige of being Arsenal's number 10. Football doesn't feel like a job to him. It's a way of expressing what's already within him. For the culture club in London, I feel at times we've lacked cult heroes. Eze could be that. I've ordered an Eze 10 shirt as a 28-year-old man. Rory Jennings is fuming. But also this invention, this lean into everything we're not, represents something, I think, much wider than Eze. Something going on across the club. Eze represents a signing I don't think we do 12 months ago. In fact, I don't think we do even in January, even if we had the funds, because probably the more cost-effective thing to do is in the summer. I don't think the Eze deal was solely dependent on Havertz from what I've read. I just think it expedited it. But regardless, based on Mikel's comments, we don't seem to be worried he's not the perfect player for our system. We're not worried whether it's the perfect deal or not. He's a player who's available and has traits we lack. We're not letting perfect be the enemy of the good. We're not waiting for the perfect conditions. We're not just getting by until someone comes back from injury, as we've done so many times before. And then, once this deal is done, we're still not sitting back and admiring our work. We're being proactive. Piero Nketiah is a fantastic signing. It's funny that a player which will end up costing something like 50 million, however he gets structured, has almost been relegated to a bit of a footnote in this video. But it's yet another example of Arsenal doing something very un-Arsenal this window, if it gets done. And mugging off Spurs again. It is the history of the Tottenham. We could have said, well, Zinchenko changed our lives a couple of years ago. He's still an Arsenal player. He's paid very well. Get on with him. But no, here we've seen an opportunity and we've gone for it. We saw a way to get better and we took it, even if it wasn't the perfect time for us. If you want an in-depth look at Nketiah, go check out the episode we did on him on the Cannon podcast. This is certainly a player with the physical capacity and mentality to play for Arsenal, with great qualities in the air, great running technique, great box defending, and an intensity to his actions. He's a little too intense, I feel, at times. There's a bit of inconsistency to his final third play, specifically in his crossing, but he is still 23. I love how early he releases from deep, something Gyökeres could thrive on. But the more interesting part to me, we weren't crying out for it, were we? You would not have got me complaining if we went into the season with Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Miles, White, Timber, Mascara, and Kivior with Salmon behind them as our defensive options. But now it's Nketiah, not Kivior, and another big financial commitment. It's that few % better because a position we probably needed to do at some point became doable now. And this attitude shift feels like it's happening across the club. Could we have kept Tomiyasu, given him one last chance? In 2023, I think we do. Could we have relied more on Calafiori? Maybe not freed Miles up to add another option in the 6 with Nketiah? Possibly. Could we have got by, waited for Jesus to come back instead of replacing Havertz? Again, not saying I like it or I would want us to do that, but we've done that before. Those corners, those gaps where seasons feel increasingly defined, they feel like they're being filled. And it's not just signings. Every facet of the club. Youth recruitment, the women's team making the first ever £1 million transfer, the continued progress commercially, we're taking a step up another level. So it leads me to say this. Who are you? And what have you done with Arsenal? We should be sitting back and admiring a 5-0 win over Leeds, but instead we're going for the jugular, as we did on the pitch, something I think unfamiliar to us. I'm finally asking the question, how's he going to get minutes? Rather than, how are we going to fill the bench? This squad is stacked. In almost every single position, I look through and think we have 2 excellent, often complementary options. We have talent bursting out of our ears and a 15-year-old who might be the next Ryan Giggs. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not seeing panic or talk of pathways and major sales. I'm seeing pride. We're ready to go with whatever 25-26 throws at us. Andrea Berta might be the best signing of the lot. Look, this has been very positive, hasn't it? We are still very early. I want to see this attitude continue, and things will go wrong this season, of course. The club will make mistakes, but I feel the squad is now capable of soaking up whatever is about to be thrown at us. It feels like we have an exec team ready to respond to crises. It feels like we have a manager with everything he needs now and the eyes and pressure on him. We're not begging Saliba and Saka to stay. We're showing them the intent we have and asking them if they want to get on the train. Our best player is injured for Anfield, but I still feel ready. An entire season doesn't rest on Bukayo Saka's hamstrings, for once. I'll finish with this. Not everyone will feel as positive as I do, and that's fine. But I would respect those who seek to criticise Arsenal more if when things did appear to be changing, they acknowledged it. But they don't. They go from, the Cronkies aren't ready to spend what needs to be spent, to, he's had so much money on him now, and that's a problem. You'd be forgiven for thinking they just want to criticise. And to be honest, they probably do. And that's fine. It's their life. We know, as true Arsenal fans, what this window represents. A shift. We know we're operating in a different way. And we know we have a lot to shout about. Thanks so much for watching. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon and get ad-free early access to each video for just £3 a month. Or for one-time support, you can buy us a coffee. Links are in the description.